Superman issue 20. I had to check what number it was.
There you go.
Brian Michael Bendis writing, Ivan Reese on the art. Just
Mm-hmm.
bear with us, Carter. We'll be done soon.
This will be quick because it was a speedier read despite being Bendis because there's a lot of double page action stuff.
Yeah. So basically,
even when there's a lot of dialogue on these it reads so quick.
Yeah,
it's so punchy.
It falls into two stories essentially. There's the fight with Mongul at the unification, leaders on the other planet, and then it's actually a scene in the Daily Star, basically with a debate brewing amongst the writers talking about how the Daily Planet's got this unfair advantage because Clark Kent is Superman and he works at the Daily Planet. He has all these first-person stories. Like he's already there for the news. This is unethical, and you've got this guy complaining constantly about it. And what's really fun about it is that we get to the idea that some people are sticking up for Superman. They're saying no, he's good. He's never been someone who's done something malicious or unethical. And she brings up this point where, hey, remember this him catching this plane? I got the story on that, and by the time I started writing it, he had time to write the whole thing, but it didn't it didn't get published or didn't even get brought up in a editorial sort of way until me. So it's like, no, he chooses not to actually use all of these encounters for news stories. Like he does that. So but then it does this thing where someone sends them a link, and it's actually, and this is interesting because I remember thinking at the time when Superman was at the gallery of all these leaders, and this was when he was with John, and they set up the unification thing, and Superman said, "I will speak in for Earth in these matters." And I remember thinking when he said that I was like, yeah, people on Earth would probably hate if they heard him say that because it's a little bit, I am their leader, I will speak for them. And sure enough, the reaction from this newsroom, which I like that it's not a Daily Planet, I like that it's this other newsroom that's characters who don't know him personally, or is this mix of things like, oh, speak for Earth, what does he think he is, like our leader? And
he's an alien himself, like who's he to speak for us? And then I'm like, and I'm reading that knowing Superman's history and going, well, of course he's going to speak. He's the best of you. You don't want to trust anybody else to do that. Like, you guys would vote Lex Luthor, right? Yeah. Humans make very bad decisions.
Yeah, so, and they're basically saying like, well, I mean, he was sort of on the spur of the moment. He didn't have much of a choice. Some people are saying this sounds like a good idea, and then the guy who's been sort of against him the whole issue is like, well, no, I mean, if someone's going to speak for Earth, in some sort of council of planets, I want it to be a human because we're mostly humans, like. So it brings up this kind of interesting debate, and then the big reveal at the end is that the person who's going to go and speak to him is someone who works there, and we reveal that Lana Lang is working at the Daily Star with a short haircut. She's got like a bobble.
Shorter haircut, and she knew Clark was Superman, right? Like, it's been so long since I've seen Lana.
This is the weird thing here. Her dialogue here implies she didn't, and I'm going to assume it's just because she's speaking to these people and she doesn't want to know that she already knew. But she definitely already knew. Lana's known previously.
Right. So there's that, and there's the last time I remember seeing her was in the pages of her own book where she was running some type of lab, right, with Steel.
I mean, I think the pages at the end, she was teaming up with Supergirl to take on the villains from Supergirl's old run. So that was the big reveal of the news stuff, and then the Mongul fight. Superman's fighting Mongul, and the leaders are like, the Tamaran leaders like trying to like encourage everyone to help Superman fight. But Mongul ends up killing a bunch of them, and it's super.
Mongul takes out the Dominators. Yeah, like they swarm him. They look like they have the upper hand.
Yeah, there's a panel where you see a Dominator on fire. It's like that scene in Terminator 2 when the playground's burning. It's actually really dark.
Yeah. And then Tamaran calls in these, a strike force, and Superman gets caught in the crossfire. And I like a lot of what Superman's talking about here. He's like, I haven't slept. Technically I don't need to sleep, but I do try to sleep. But when I'm on lack of sleep, I'm more susceptible to being knocked out.
This is the opening because at the end of the last issue, Mongul had him down and he was holding him, and that was the cliffhanger. At the start of this issue, it reveals that he basically is woken up because Mongul's dragging him by his face, and that's
and all this other stuff that he does stand a chance, but he needs them to stand together with him, and Mongul kind of just wipes the floor with all these people, and I feel like this is going to show why we need a United Planet.
Yeah,
So they're going to need to work together.
I do like how maniacally like smiling Mongol is as he's doing this. He's having a great old time as he's doing this.
He's a warlord, and this is what he does. And there's
So-
some really great stuff. And then it got me thinking. I'm like, man, Mongol just feels like Thanos. Like, who predates each other? Well, Thanos came in the 70s, written by created by Jim Starlin. And when Mongol came in 1980, also created by Jim Starlin, but with Len Wein. So I think that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
That
So, like you say, the
crossover vibes.
cliffhanger here is the is all the ships that they've called in to help because during the issue they're kind of debating if they should just run and just screw this United Federation of Planets idea. And that's Star Trek terminology. I can't remember what they were calling it. Unification of planets, whatever.
Yeah, no, it's United Planets.
Okay, so it's all the ships. So it's basically, even though Superman's kind of caught in the crossfire, it's actually kind of an uplifting ending because they're still kind of banding together to take on Mongols. So it's kind of hopeful. But the actual last scene of the book is that Lois is like, okay, I'm going to go for a snack. I've been writing this book, and she puts on a blonde wig to go for food, and she opens the door. And it's a reporter from the Daily Star.
Snow.
Yeah, the blonde woman who was kind of sticking up for him, and she's got a cameraman, and she's got a mic in Lois's face, and she's like, "Oh, who declared Superman the king of the world?"
Who made your husband king of Earth?
Yeah. And she's like, the king of what now? And she just looks, and what I love about it is she looks really confused, but she's also got this blonde wig on, so she looks especially weird at the ending of this.
Yep.
So yeah, so I like this because I love the debate in the newsroom of how other people that are outside, because at Daily Planet everyone there knows him, so they're kind of close to him. This is like seeing this more objective, like this is like just a random newsroom on Earth reacting to it is really fun.
This is so close to a Daily Planet book I've always wanted. That's just them in the newsroom talking about news and how to deal with it. So, but it just happened to be the Daily Star, which is always the number 2. Like I know that Clark in different Origins, that's who he worked for first.
Yeah.
Before he could break through into the planet. So I like that Bendis is bringing that back around. Like,
that's very nice. And then even the idea that it's flying into Lois's life now, that there's reporters hounding her, is like, oh, here's more effects of what's happening now that everyone knows. So, real good stuff. Real good stuff. It's so funny how it flipped from action being the better book now to Superman clearly being the better.
I know. I was thinking that as I was reading this, and it just feels, you can tell where Bendis is putting his energy.
And it's not like it's not just because action got bad because of JRJR. Like even if action was still solid, this would still be better right now.
It was trailing off. Like once we got done with the United Planet stuff in Superman, you could tell that's where the focus went to. Right? Like we had John and his story, and that was good, but it wasn't at the same level of the stuff we were reading in action. And now this is taking precedent, and action's kind of on the back burner. And I'm sure they'll switch back.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll flip back and forth. Yeah. Depending where we are on the stories. But no, this is really good. I mean, obviously, Ivan Reese on the art is solid as ever, doing what he does. I think the stuff in the newsroom is just fine. I think the fighting with Mongol and all the destruction, like the killing the Dominators, I think that stuff looks especially great. I think Ivan Reese is one of the artists who benefits more from the actual superheroics than he does from the actual drama of people just talking to each other. Because there's some artists that are the opposite, where they're really good at people talking to each other and the facial expressions, but the action is not as good. Ivan Reese is definitely an action artist first, and then the talking drama second. But
well, and his Mongol give me his flashbacks to his Green Lantern work, and stuff. Like his Mongol just looks great, and he looks like a force of nature here. Like I'm like, how's Superman gonna stop him? So it's really good.
Yep. What are you giving it?
I'll give this an 8.5 as well.
Joe, I'm really tempted to try and give it the 9, but I think I agree with 8.5 again. I think it's just on the verge of amazing. It's really, really great, but not quite at the amazing level. So I'm going to go with 8.5 as well.